After 6 heartwarming years, a mother discovers the incredible truth. She arrested her own son. Sarah Jensen, standing in her tiny kitchen in the heart of a cozy suburb outside Chicago, never thought life would throw such a gut-wrenching curveball. Each morning, she woke before dawn, the weight of the world resting firmly on her shoulders, yet all she could think about was Ethan. He was her universe, the light in her long, exhausting days juggling waitress shifts and cleaning contracts. The walls of their humble home, festooned with his artistic creations, reflected their unwavering bond. Every paint stroke and pencil mark a testament to her devotion, to nurturing his dreams of becoming an artist. Everything felt right as she watched him blossom, laughter echoing through the halls like a melody she never wanted to end. The neighbors rallied around them, bringing casseroles and encouragement like a warm hug. Life might be challenging, but love and support wrapped around them all, reminding her of resilience and that American spirit. But as graduation loomed closer, excitement twisted with anxiety. The future was uncertain. Bills piled high, and worries hung heavily like storm clouds. One fateful evening, Sarah did something she never imagined. She put on the blue uniform of a local police officer, driven by a fierce desire to protect the community she loved fiercely. She was ready to combat the darkness around them. But fate, in its cruel twist, had other plans. During a routine drug operation, adrenaline surged in her veins, and she found herself arresting a young man with familiar eyes. The moment she realized the boy in handcuffs was Ethan shattered her heart into a million pieces. It was as though the ground beneath her had collapsed. "Mom, what are you doing?" Ethan's voice, laced with confusion and betrayal, echoed in her ears. The quick breaths, the tightening in her chest, it felt like every ounce of air had been sucked out of her world. How could this happen? Panic erupted, and judgment swept through her like wildfire. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you could drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The community, once a sanctuary, now buzzed with whispers. Friends turned into strangers as eyes narrowed, and conversations grew tense. Who was right? The protector of the law, or the boy they all loved? Sarah's heart ached as she sat alone, her head spinning with the knowledge that she had to uphold justice while facing the reality that it might fracture her relationship with the greatest source of love in her life. Ethan's glances were filled with anger and pain, as if she betrayed the very fabric of their love. It felt unbearable, a heavy cloak of despair wrapping tightly around them both. Each encounter was a new wound, each conversation an echo of what was lost. As the storm raged on in their hearts and the community stood divided, Sarah and Ethan were left at a precarious cliff. Hope hung delicately in the air. Could it survive? Or would this tragedy dissolve the beautiful bond they fought so hard to build? The whispering winds of change beckoned, carrying with them the promise of redemption, yet cloaked in uncertainty. Would they find their way back to each other, or was this the beginning of the end for everything they held dear? The days dragged into weeks, and the world outside Sarah's window grew dimmer. Each morning, when she looked at the calendar, the pain in her chest unfolded anew. Ethan's trial loomed, a ticking clock that seemed to count down the seconds of their potential final moments together. She felt isolated, even in a town that had once embraced them. Friends offered half-hearted support, their eyes avoiding hers, loaded with questions she couldn't answer. Sarah wanted to scream, to make them understand that she hadn't had a choice. Yet, how could she ask that of them? She knew they saw her as a police officer first and a mother second, and that hurt more than anything. Every night, she pored over bond paperwork, trying to navigate the system that now felt foreign to her. She was drowning in doubt, doubts of her decisions, doubts about her parenting, doubts about Ethan's choices. It took everything in her to keep the faith, to cling to that last shred of hope that maybe, just maybe, this was all part of the bigger plan. The day of the arraignment arrived, and Sarah's heart raced as she entered the courtroom. There was nothing grand about it. Gray, sterile walls, and harsh lighting. She spotted Ethan, sitting stoic and alone in the defendant's chair. The sight of him like that broke her heart all over again. Her boy, the creative soul who painted sunsets and crafted sculptures. Where had they gone wrong? Ethan's eyes met hers, and the moment hung between them like an uncut thread. He looked so small, the weight of the world pressing down harder than any handcuffs ever could. Tears pricked at Sarah's eyes. She thought about the cozy nights filled with laughter and art lessons, and how quickly everything had spiraled into chaos. "Ethan, please," she whispered, though no one else could hear. She wanted him to know that she still believed in him, even if it felt like everything else was falling apart. But then the judge entered, and the room became muted and serious, words flying around in legal jargon she barely understood. She felt overwhelmed. How did she get here? How had the roles reversed so drastically? "Your Honor, I plead not guilty." Ethan's voice resonated through the silence. The words felt heavier than a stone tossed into a river, sending ripples that threatened to drown Sarah in worry. Not guilty? Did he really believe that? Or was it just a plea fueled by anger? As the bailiff called the first witness to the stand, the tension heightened. Sarah watched the prosecutor, sharp and relentless, ready to strike. Her heart clenched with every word hurled against Ethan, as if each one was a blow directly to her. In that moment, she knew she had to act. More than the pain of separation, she felt a driving need to defend her son, to fight against the narrative that was forming around him. She rose from her seat, the tide of impulse washing over her. She couldn't sit quietly any longer. "Your Honor," Sarah called out, her voice breaking through the cadence of the court. Everyone turned to her. Ethan's eyes widened. Was he surprised? Defiant? She didn't know, but she was certain of one thing. She had to speak, whether it made her a hero or a fool. "Let me explain." Sarah took a deep breath, the words hanging in the air, ready to tumble out. But would it be enough to bridge the abyss growing between them? Would it ruin them or save them? As the words left her lips, the silence wrapped around them, thick and heavy, demanding attention. "Your Honor." The words echoed in the stillness of the courtroom, and Sarah's heart raced. She noticed the flicker of surprise in Ethan's eyes. It struck her how vulnerable he looked, and it made her chest ache deeper. She wasn't there to ruin him. She was there to pull him back from the edge. Mama's voice croaked, a mixture of confusion and surprise. "Please, just give me a moment," she pleaded, her voice trembling but firm. The judge raised an eyebrow, hesitating, but then waved a hand, giving her the floor. "Your Honor, I know I'm just a mother in this court full of facts and figures. I was trained to uphold the law, but I want to remind everyone in this room that the person you see before you is not just a criminal. He's my son, a son who has made mistakes, yes, but who is full of potential and goodness." The murmurs in the gallery grew louder. The prosecutor's expression hardened. She stole a glance at Ethan. He was still staring at her, a storm of emotions crashing behind those eyes. "I raised him to be kind, to face challenges with courage, and to treat people with respect. When I look at him, I see the little boy who drew all over his walls and insisted they be called creative expression. I see the teenager who stood up for friends being bullied. I see him, not as a criminal, but as a bright soul lost in a dark moment." A pause hung in the air. The judge shifted uncomfortably, perhaps taken aback by the raw emotion spilling out in a courtroom, something that rarely happened. Sarah could feel the weight of every gaze, her heart thundering louder than before. She knew she was putting herself on the line, but there was no going back now. "I'm not asking for sympathy. I just want you to remember that our justice system was built to redeem, not just to punish. Ethan made terrible choices, yes, but he deserves help, guidance, and a chance to redeem himself." Her voice trembled, but she pressed on. He was scared, and scared people do stupid things. I understand that more than anyone. I've been navigating the darkness of this situation while trying to hold everything together. Tears streamed down her cheeks, blurring her vision. But she didn't care. She was laying everything bare. Whatever brave facade she had built was gone, ripped away by the urgency of her love. Whatever timeline or plea bargain the state wishes to impose on him, she continued, her voice steadying, I urge you to consider the human being standing before you. There is more to him than tonight's events. There is room for healing here. She took a shaky breath. Silence fell again, thicker this time. Sarah looked at Ethan, and for the first time, she felt a flicker of hope. Did he see her fight? Did he feel the depth of her belief in him? Thank you, Mrs. Harper, the judge finally said, with a tone that hinted at surprise. Your words will be taken into consideration. But as she sat down, an unsettling thought crept in. What if her plea, instead of changing the tide, landed harshly on both their fates? The prosecutor wasn't finished. They could turn this moment against them, weaponizing her vulnerability. And then, the next witness took the stand, and Sarah felt the emerging dread twist in her gut. Would the truth about Ethan's actions rise to the surface? Would the judge and jury see him as she did? Or was she just a mother clinging to a fading dream? Your Honor, the next witness was present during the incident, the prosecutor called, signaling a direction she didn't want to face. As the witness approached, a part of Sarah braced for impact. She could sense the impending turmoil ready to engulf Ethan once again. Was it too late to protect him? The court was about to hear what felt like a knife poised to stab deeper into the already gaping wound of their suffering. With each step the witness took, Sarah could only think. What had Ethan really done? Would this testimony break them, or would they finally start picking up the pieces? The witness took the stand, and Sarah braced herself. A young man, perhaps in his late 20s, climbed up as the prosecutor gestured for him to sit. His face was drawn, like a man burdened by secrets too heavy to share. Sarah clenched her hands, the cold metal of the courtroom bench biting into her fingers. She couldn't help but wonder what he would say. Would it crush her hope or offer a glimmer of understanding? Can you please state your name for the court? The prosecutor asked, her voice as sharp as a blade. Ryan Miller, he replied, glancing briefly in Sarah's direction. His eyes looked haunted, and she felt a pang of sympathy for him. He was a witness, sure, but that didn't mean he was free of hurt. Mr. Miller, please describe the events you witnessed on the night in question. As Ryan began recounting the evening, every word felt like a countdown to some impending disaster. He spoke of altercations, heated arguments, and the visual chaos that erupted. Sarah's heart sank with each detail. The judge's eyes remained fixed on Ryan, capturing every slight change in his tone, every nuance of pain. Then, without warning, Ryan's voice broke. I saw him with a group of guys. I didn't think much of it at first. They were just hanging out. He paused, taking a breath as though preparing to dive into icy waters. But then things escalated. They started yelling, shoving each other. Sarah felt her throat tighten. Her breath felt more difficult with each passing moment. She could see Ethan's face contorting fury mixed with fear. No matter how hard she wanted to deny it, he was in that chaos. But where was the line drawn? Were they all only products of a moment? When I saw Ethan pull the gun, I thought he was joking. I thought it was all a game. But it happened so fast. I didn't want him to. Ryan's voice trembled, and he looked directly at Ethan. He fired it in the air. And then people started screaming. I was terrified. Gasps echoed in the courtroom, bouncing off the walls like arrows. Sarah found herself shaking, the realization sinking in like a stone in her gut. Her son had pulled a trigger. It was a dreadful mistake, a split-second decision that had spiraled into chaos. Yet, could she still believe there was more to him? Mr. Miller, the prosecutor interjected, did Ethan seem to know the consequences of his actions that night? Ryan hesitated, looking conflicted. I think he did. But he was scared. We were all scared. His eyes wandered over the gallery, meeting Sarah's with a flicker of understanding. It was chaos. We were out of control. Sarah felt a jolt. Ryan's words echoed in her mind. Scared people do stupid things. In her heart, she understood the despair he and Ethan had faced. In that moment, they were all children lost in a storm. What happens next? Sarah whispered to herself. The prosecutor was relentless, her questions slicing through the air. Did you personally see him point the weapon at anyone? The prosecutor pressed. Yes, Ryan replied, his voice barely a whisper now, laced with guilt. But not for long. He was just trying to make everyone stop. He didn't mean to thank you, Mr. Miller, the prosecutor interrupted, her voice icy. No further questions. The silence settled back into the courtroom, thick and suffocating. Sarah's heart raced in anticipation. Would this testimony seal Ethan's fate or offer him a path toward redemption? She glanced at her son, his face still pale, eyes wide with fear, and saw something flicker there, a tiny spark of understanding, perhaps, but the uncertainty loomed. The man on the stand wasn't the only one with burdens. Sarah was carrying her own, and it felt heavier than ever. As the tension coursed through her veins, she realized that the uncovering of this truth might lead to a place she dreaded yet yearned to explore. Would Ethan's truth set him free or trap him forever? In an instant, she knew they were on a precipice, the edge of revealing the real Ethan, a truth hidden beneath layers of fear and pressure. And just as the next attorney stood to cross-examine Ryan, Sarah's world felt like it could shatter or heal in the next heartbeat. What would it take for them to rise from this moment as more than just a mother and her son? Would the truth finally give Ethan the hope he so desperately needed? The room felt heavy with uncertainty as the next attorney rose. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest, each thump echoing in her ears like a drum, signaling an approaching storm. She felt the weight of every pair of eyes in the courtroom, captivated by the unfolding drama. But nothing could compare to the weight she felt from within. The attorney, a sharp-looking woman with a piercing glare, approached Ryan. Mr. Miller, she began, her tone smooth yet firm. You mentioned chaos. But how would you define Ethan's role in all of this? Was he a leader, a follower? Ryan's brow furrowed. He wasn't a leader. It just happened. We were all caught up. He was scared, just like the rest of us. Scared or reckless. The attorney shot back, eyes narrowing. Can you tell us, did he seem to understand the gravity of what he was doing? The way Ryan's voice wavered as he replied stabbed through Sarah's heart. I think he did, but it's complicated. Everyone reacts differently in a crisis. Sarah found herself leaning forward, feeling desperate for understanding. What did Ethan see that night? Was he merely a player in someone else's game? Or did he choose to play a dangerous hand himself? She wished she could reach through the air, grab Ryan's words, and wring out the truth like a wet cloth. The attorney pressed on, relentless. So, you believe Ethan was merely reacting to the situation, not instigating it? The air felt charged with tension. Yes, Ryan said, his voice gaining strength, but he held the gun. And that's not something anyone should take lightly. With those words, a dam broke inside Sarah. Every emotion she had buried surged to the surface. Anger, fear, but above all confusion. Ethan was her son, the child she had raised, loved, and protected. How could he have stepped into such darkness? Mr. Miller, the attorney continued, if everyone was scared, why would Ethan escalate it further with a weapon? Doesn't that show a level of intent? Intent. Ryan's voice trailed off, and he looked pained, as if trapped between loyalty to his friend and honesty for the court. He just wanted everyone to listen. A flicker of realization hit Sarah. Ethan had always struggled with being heard. Was it all just a tragic cry for attention? It was staggering how one misstep could spiral so far out of control. Her heart ached as she pictured her boy, standing there in desperation, not knowing how to guide the chaos unfolding around him. The attorney shifted tactics, her gaze shifting towards the gallery. Did you see anyone else encouraging Ethan? Anyone else compelling him to act this way? Ryan hesitated, glancing at Ethan and then at Sarah. Yeah, there were others egging him on. It got wild, but Ethan could walked away. For a moment, Sarah couldn't breathe. Did they all share this blame? The thought echoed in her mind, thrumming against her skull. If Ethan wasn't alone in this, would it open a door to understanding? Or would it drown them deeper in a wave of guilt? As the examination continued, Sarah's heart raced with doubt and hope. She wrestled with the painful truth that there might be more than one way to love her son, more than one way to save him. And then, in the midst of Ryan's shaky testimony, a thought struck her like lightning. What if she wasn't just his mother, but also the key to Ethan's redemption? Could she face not only what he had done, but also her role in it all? The courtroom seemed to fade away, and all Sarah could focus on was the boy locked inside that prison of mistakes. Would she have the courage to help him face his truth, despite the heartache? Just as she thought she had a grasp on where to move forward, her phone buzzed in her pocket, jolting her back to reality. The message was from an unknown number. A deep breath caught in her throat. What if it held the answer she so deeply craved? She couldn't afford to let this moment pass without knowing. What lay beyond those words could change everything. Sarah's hands shook as she pulled her phone from her pocket. The stranger's message lingered ominously between hope and fear. What if it was simply a wrong number? Or worse, what if it contained more than she was ready to handle? She pressed the button to open the message and felt her heart leap as she read the words. Ethan was trying to protect you. You need to know the truth. Meet me outside after the hearing. Her pulse quickened. Protect her? The thought was both soothing and terrifying. Ethan had been so lost in his choices, yet this message implied a motive, a reason that felt buried under the weight of what had happened. But who was this person? Were they a friend, or perhaps someone tangled in the shadows of that chaotic night? 1,000 questions flooded her mind, but the most pressing one was how to concentrate. The courtroom faded around her as she fought to ground herself. She had to finish this hearing. She could not let the distraction of a cryptic message deter her attention from Ethan. As she glanced back toward the front, she found Ryan still delivering testimonies. The attorney's questions had shifted again, the intensity still thrumming. Mr. Miller, the attorney pressed, her voice cutting sharply. You say he wasn't a leader. But when he held that weapon, what does that make him? A participant? An unwilling pawn? Or a willing player in a dangerous game? Ryan's eyes darted to Sarah, a swell of emotion swirling beneath his surface, as though he was fighting just as hard for Ethan's defense as she was. I believe he was trying to assert himself. He did something terrible, but it stems from a place of fear and confusion. He wanted to be heard, wanted to be something more than the quiet kid who always faded into the background. Sarah's heart sank at his words. The quiet kid. That was her boy. Somewhere along the way, the world had overwhelmed him, and now he was locked in this fight, not just for his freedom, but for his place in the messy, chaotic web they'd woven together. She felt a tear slip down her cheek despite her efforts to keep it together. Ethan took pride in playing the peacemaker, the one who wanted everyone to get along. Where had that boy gone? The attorney shifted gears once more, her voice pulsing with authority. So, Mr. Miller, you're suggesting that he was simply reacting to his environment? That he didn't fully comprehend what he was doing? Exactly. Ryan's voice registered a note of desperation. He never meant for things to go this far. None of us did. The weight of Ryan's words landed heavily on Sarah. A cry for attention. A reaction to years of feeling unseen. Could that really explain the series of events that had shattered not only their lives, but so many others? Just as doubts began to cloud her mind, the judge's gavel rang out, snapping her back to present time. Order in the court. A sudden wave of determination surged within Sarah. She needed to speak to this stranger. If this person had insight into Ethan's actions, she had to listen. As the hearing concluded, the gallery began to disperse. Sarah's heart was in overdrive. If this new opportunity existed, she could shatter the silence that bound her son. She gathered her things, steeling herself for the unknown in the hallway. She spotted the stranger, a tall figure leaning against the wall, face obscured by shadows. Would this meeting lead to understanding, Or would it plummet her further down a treacherous path? Every instinct urged her forward. She approached slowly, the cold air seemingly wrapping around her as she whispered, "What do you know about Ethan?" The figure straightened, eyes glimmering with purpose. "More than you might imagine, and you're not ready for what I have to tell you." Her breath caught. What awaited her on the other side of those words could ignite hope or deepen despair. Would she find redemption for Ethan, or would she stumble further into darkness? Sarah's heart raced as she searched the stranger's face for familiarity. The dim light cast deep shadows, masking the features that could have offered her solace or further anxiety. "What do you mean? What truth?" She could barely form the words, each syllable weighed down by dread and anticipation. Ethan didn't act alone. The stranger continued, voice steady, as if they were imparting a deep secret that had been festering beneath the surface. "There's more to this story, more about that night. He was just trying to protect you. He was caught in something much bigger than he understood." A chill ran through Sarah. She had spent nights awake, battling her own thoughts about that evening. The events felt like a foggy dream, slipping through her fingers every time she tried to grasp them. "What do you know about it?" Anxiety knotted in her stomach. "Please just tell me." The stranger took a half step forward, lowering their voice. Ethan was part of a group. They called themselves the Refuge. It started as a support network, but it devolved fast. They believed in fighting back against their fears, but in the process, they hurt others. Hurt themselves. Sarah felt the ground beneath her shift. Ethan? Part of a group that propagated violence? It seemed so contrary to the boy she had raised. Yet, she saw the way he often withdrew, how the echoes of life outside their cozy home seemed to haunt him. "Why didn't he tell me?" The words stumbled out, thick with emotion. "He thought he was protecting you," the stranger replied, their gaze softening. "He was scared. He didn't want you to see how deep he'd fallen into that darkness." Indifference turns to rage. It's easy to mistake one for the other if you're not careful. Tears brimmed in Sarah's eyes, and she bit her lip to hold them back. "So, it's true it wasn't just a mistake. He chose to be part of that." "No," the stranger interjected, shaking their head. "That's not entirely fair. He was a kid, trying to navigate a world that felt overwhelming. You know how harsh it can be, how meaningful friendships can turn toxic. But there were also people pulling the strings." "Who? Who was leading this? Who were these people?" Her voice rose with urgency. Each answer seemed to spiral her deeper into a maze of unknowing, but she was desperate to unravel it. "The same people who put him in harm's way," the stranger said, their tone shifting. "It was a matter of survival to them, but he also played a role. He was convinced he was doing good. He believed his actions would make a difference." With every heartbeat, Sarah felt the void where hope should have resided grow heavier. She wanted to scream, to fight against the injustices being heaped upon her son. So this is some twisted tale of loyalty to a misguided cause? It's not just Ethan's burden to bear. There are more victims, Sarah. Those kids, just like Ethan, thought they were fighting the good fight. The stranger took a deep breath, studying her. "You need to be ready for the truth. Everyone is connected. And those connections aren't just friendships. They echo into heartbreak. Doubt and fear melded into determination." Sarah straightened her shoulders. She wouldn't let Ethan be a mere pawn in this sinister game. "What can I do?" she asked, her voice firm. "I want to lose my son without a fight. I need to know everything." The stranger's eyes widened with expectation, an emotion that matched Sarah's newfound clarity. "And we need to go. There is someone else who can help, but you have to trust me." For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Sarah felt a rush of purpose. But darkness still loomed. Who else was involved? And what sacrifices would she have to make to rescue her son from the depths of these hidden truths? As she moved to follow the stranger, a fresh wave of uncertainty washed over her. Was she ready to confront the implications that lay ahead, or would this journey lead her to regret? Each step she took felt heavier than the last, a mix of resolve and apprehension. What awaited her in the shadows? Would she truly find Ethan, or would she uncover something even darker lurking beneath the surface? Sarah followed the stranger through the winding streets, shadows dancing like specters around them. Every step felt like an echo of her own heartbeat, pulsing with adrenaline and fear. Where are they going? What would she uncover? The questions piled up on her chest, suffocating and urgent, as they navigated narrow alleyways. The dim streetlights flickered overhead. The stranger kept glancing back, assessing her reaction. "You're strong," they reassured her, though the shadow of doubt loomed larger than ever. "You'll need that strength soon. Do you know where Ethan is?" she asked, anxiety crackling in her throat. The very thought of him trapped in some chaotic network sent her heart racing. "Is he safe?" The stranger paused, turning to face her. "For now, but there are forces at play that could change that in an instant." Their words sent a chill down Sarah's spine, twisting her thoughts around the urgent need to find her son. "You need to understand that this goes deeper than you realize." "What do you mean?" Head tilted slightly, the stranger replied. "The refuge isn't just a name. It's a web. It connects more than just those kids. It reaches into places you wouldn't expect." Her stomach tightened. Connections. A web. This wasn't just about Ethan. It was about a community of lost kids, all searching for a purpose. She tried to imagine her son entangled in such a network, and the thought turned her stomach. What did he get himself into? "You'll see. We're almost there." They turned sharply into a dimly lit building, a door creaking open to reveal a small room cluttered with old furniture and flickering screens. A chill ran through her, the air thick with mystery and anticipation. Who is here? Someone who knows the truth. The stranger stepped aside as another figure emerged from the darkness, revealing a woman with weary eyes and a haunted expression. "This is Clara. She has information that could help you understand." Sarah felt a rush of uncertainty. Would this woman have the answers she so desperately sought? "Ethan's not the only one caught up in this," Clara said, her voice a whisper framed by resignation. "Many feel lost, exploited, and angry. They need guidance, and sometimes that need leads them down dark paths." Why didn't anyone stop it? Sarah's frustration bubbled over. How could something like this spiral out of control? Clara looked at her with a mix of empathy and steel. People were too afraid to intervene. The group's grip is strong. They lure these kids in with promises of belonging and strength. It's hard to say no when you feel utterly alone. Sarah's heart sank. Alone. She couldn't remember a time when she had felt so isolated. "But we can help them, can't we?" "We can." Clara's voice was clearer now. "But it takes risk. Are you willing to delve into their world? To reach Ethan, you might have to confront those leading him astray." Every word felt like a hammer, chiseling away at her resolve. What if I get hurt? What if I can't pull him back? What if it's too late? The questions tangled in her mind until she felt dizzy. "Then you fight." The stranger's voice brought her focus back. "This is your son. You don't back down because it's scary. You face it head on." A flicker of fear mixed with determination ignited in Sarah. She thought of Ethan, his laughter, the way he embraced life despite every challenge. "I'll do it," she said, the decision firming her stance. "I'll go to them. I'll do whatever it takes." "Good." Clara nodded, encouragement lighting her tired eyes. "But be careful. They have ways of making you doubt yourself, making you question what's right." The stranger offered a hand to Sarah. "It's not just about rescuing Ethan. It's about saving those who can still be saved." Sarah took a deep breath. She didn't think she could turn back now. But was she truly ready for the battle ahead? As they plotted their next move, a sense of urgency settled in the air. With every second ticking by, Ethan could be spiraling deeper into darkness. "Let us go," she said, her voice steady. "I want to let him fall deeper. Not without a fight." With her heart pounding in her ears, Sarah felt the weight of impending confrontation resting on her shoulders. What awaited her in this web of deception? Would she find Ethan before it was too late, or would she uncover the true cost of loyalty? The air in the cramped room smelled stale, a mix of old wood and distant memories. As Sarah looked around, The gravity of what lay ahead pressed down on her. Clara stood beside her, nervous energy radiating. Sarah could see the fear mixed with hope in those tired eyes. "Where do we begin?" Sarah asked, resolve creeping into her voice. Clara exchanged glances with the stranger, who nodded slowly. "You need to understand the inner workings of the refuge. It's not just a hangout for kids, it's a recruiting ground. They prey on their vulnerabilities." "They?" Sarah questioned, her heart racing. "Who are they?" Clara hesitated, as if the answer was a bitter pill. "They call themselves leaders. They manipulate these kids, giving them a false family. You need to tread carefully. Confronting them could provoke a reaction you might not be ready for." "I'm ready for anything," Sarah insisted, though her voice quivered slightly. "Then we start with the locals," the stranger said, pulling out a worn notebook filled with names and addresses. "Gather intel from those closest to Ethan. They might know where he is spending time." The stranger handed Sarah the notebook, and a wave of determination surged through her. Names, places. Inside her, a plan began to form, wrapping around her heart like a protective shield. "Let us do this," she said. As they stepped into the night, streetlights flickered like fading stars. Clara led the way, each footstep echoing possibilities. They arrived at a shabby diner, neon lights buzzing above a cracked sign that read "All Night Eats." It felt like a facade. The diner housed a youth culture teetering on the edge between rebellion and despair. Inside, the atmosphere was thick. Kids huddled in booths, whispering about conflicts and betrayals. Sarah's heart ached seeing their youthful faces hardened by experiences no child should endure. Clara approached a boy leaning against the counter, a shadow of uncertainty flickering across his face. "Josh, do you know where Ethan has been?" Josh looked wary, glancing around before answering in a hushed tone. "He with them, hiding out. They pulled him in deeper like they did with everyone else." "What do you mean?" Sarah's stomach churned. This wasn't the respawn of innocence she had hoped for. "Ethan thinks he found a place," Josh said, his voice trembling. "They make him feel special, but it's a trap. They change you. It's like they own your soul." Sarah's breath hitched. She thought of Ethan's laughter, his spirit bright and unyielding. How could someone twist that? "What can we do?" She pressed, desperation thickening her voice. "You have to confront them. There's a gathering tonight." Josh's gaze widened fearfully. "It's their way of conditioning the kids to follow. If Ethan's there, I need to find him," Sarah urged, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The time for hesitation was over. Clara squeezed her arm gently. "But it's dangerous. We could cause a scene." "I don't care." The words spilled out. "He my son. I'll risk everything." With a shared resolve, they headed toward the location Josh had whispered, a dilapidated warehouse on the outskirts of town. As they walked, adrenaline heightened their senses. The night felt alive, crackling with tension. Arriving at the warehouse, they halted just short of the entrance. Music pumped inside, a heavy beat that seeped through the walls. Every thump of the bass mirrored Sarah's heart. There was solace and terror within those walls. "What if we do find Ethan?" Clara's voice held worry, a tremor of uncertainty. "What happens after?" "We bring him home," Sarah replied, her voice steady. "Together, we can help him break free." But as they stepped forward, uncertainty clawed at her. Would Ethan welcome her intervention, or would he turn against her, like so many others? As they approached the door, a shiver of premonition wrapped around Sarah. She could feel the weight of those inside, the collective yearnings and hurt. "Ready?" Clara whispered. With a deep breath, Sarah nodded, feeling the pulse of her mission at her core. Was it too late for Ethan? Would love be enough to pull him back from the precipice? As they pushed the heavy door open, darkness enveloped them. The scene that unfolded inside promised both revelation and danger. What truths would they uncover, and at what cost? Would they find Ethan, or would the shadows swallow him whole? The warehouse buzzed with energy, the heavy bass vibrating through Sarah's chest. But the moment they stepped inside, her breath caught in her throat. It wasn't just a gathering. It was a tempest of raw emotions, fear, and rebellion. Kids swayed to the music, their faces lit with reckless abandon. But the underlying tension crackled like unspent electricity. "Stay close," Clara whispered, gripping Sarah's arm. They navigated through the sea of bodies, Sarah's heart pounding for more than just the atmosphere. Where was Ethan? "Look for someone familiar," Clara urged. Her voice almost lost in the din. Sarah scanned the crowd, searching every youthful face, desperately hoping to catch a glimpse of her son. The thought that he might be lost here, amidst the chaos and confusion, gripped her like a vice. Then she saw him at the far end of the room, partially obscured by shadows and swirling smoke. Ethan stood with a group of kids. He looked different, drawn, tense, like the bright spirit she once knew was buried beneath layers of confusion. Something twisted inside her, a mix of fear and determination. He was in the eye of the storm, but was he lost or still fighting? "Ethan," she called out, her voice piercing through the noise, reaching for him like a lifebuoy tossed in a turbulent sea. He turned, startled, eyes wide with disbelief. For a moment, the music faded away. The chaos paused as their gazes locked. "Mom?" he breathed, an expression teetering between shock and shame. The world around them blurred, and Sarah felt every heartbeat, the desperation, the love, the fear that had brought her here. She pushed through the crowd, urgency driving her. "Ethan, we need to talk. I'm here for you." The words tumbled out, heavy with emotion. But instead of relief, Sarah saw Ethan recoil. "You shouldn't be here," he shouted, voice cracking. "You don't understand." "No, Ethan, you don't understand." Sarah's heart ached as she drew closer. "I want to help you. This isn't who you are." She searched his eyes, hoping to ignite a spark of connection, a flicker of the warmth that had once filled their home. "You're still my boy, the artist who painted the sunsets." Around them, the music resumed, but it felt different. The weight of unshed emotions hung thick in the air, palpable and fierce. Kids began to sway again, but there was a ripple of anxiety, whispering that something was off. Ethan's shoulders sagged, the fight leaving him. "They said I needed to prove myself to be a part of something bigger." I thought his voice trailed off, overwhelmed, and Sarah felt his pain cutting through her like a knife. "Stop it, Ethan," Clara interjected, stepping up beside Sarah. "This isn't a family. They're using you. You're just a pawn in their game." The truth hit like a storm, and the crowd began to shift uneasily. There was recognition in their eyes, uncertainty creeping in as they processed Clara's words. "They don't care about you," Sarah added, her voice breaking with emotion. "And I can't lose you to this darkness. Come back with me. We can fix this together." Ethan looked torn, glancing between Sarah and the kids around him, whose expressions began to shift from confidence to doubt. Could they feel the truth settling into? Then a voice cut through, sharp and authoritative. "You think you could just come in here and take him back?" A tall figure stepped forward, eyes cold and cutting. "You don't know what you're interrupting." Sarah squared her shoulders, refusing to back down. "I'm interrupting a lie. This isn't the way, and you know it." Ethan's tension wavered as he met her gaze. Each flicker of doubt was a crack in the facade that had held him captive. Sarah felt it in her bones, the realization that love had the power to bridge even the deepest chasms. Suddenly, murmurs rippled through the crowd, a mix of dissent and realization. The facade was cracking. "Ethan," Sarah whispered, stepping closer, desperately trying to reach him through the walls he had built. "You're more than this. You are loved. Let us rebuild. You don't have to do this alone." Silence enveloped them, the music fading to an echo. The kids looked around, their solidarity shaken. Ethan's breath was ragged as he struggled against the storm inside him. "I don't want to lose you, Mom." But they said. He looked around, searching for strength, but finding only uncertainty. They lied. Clara's voice was fierce. "You were never alone. Look around. We're all here, together, and we can help each other." Ethan hung in the balance, torn between his loyalty to the group and the tether of love that pulled him back home. Finally, with trembling hands, he stepped forward, eyes shining with unshed tears. "I want to come home," he said slowly, the words heavy but true, like the first rays of dawn breaking through dark clouds. The moment shifted, a wave of relief washing over Sarah as she reached for him, pulling him close. In that embrace, everything melted: the fears, the darkness, and the pain. There was a world outside this chaotic existence, and together they could reclaim not just their relationship, but their lives. Behind them, the air grew still, uncertainty hanging like mist. Clara exchanged glances with the kids around them, and slowly, some stepped forward. "We want to get out, too. We don't know how," one girl said, vulnerability etched in her features. "Then let us start here." Together, Sarah declared, her heart swelling with affirmation. "We can find the way." What had started as chaos had turned into a chorus of voices yearning for hope, a realization that they were all lost, but could be found again as they stepped back into the light. Sarah felt the warmth of possibility. Together, they would navigate the journey ahead, hand in hand, side by side. And maybe, just maybe, they could turn this dark chapter into a vibrant canvas of second chances and new beginnings. Now, if you felt a surge of hope, a connection to this story, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. This is the moment to show your support for tales that matter. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm so we can keep sharing these inspiring transformations. I want to hear from you in the comments. What emotions did this ending stir in you? And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this journey of redemption. Your voice matters.